You're welcome to Love Afrobeat Music Talk Radio, your number one African Caribbean online radio. We have a very special show for you today, this morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you may be around the globe. Well, on Saturdays, we bring you all the best of the best. Well, today we have a very special guest for you. He's one of the top bass players in the world. Fusion bass players, he's going to tell you more about himself. But you know what, folks? If you look at his bio, you can run it up to Thy Kingdom Come. He has achieved tremendous mileage in the world of music. And here with me is my co-host, Ron Molinga. Ron is here with me. He's in the house. Petra is on vacation, some little vacation. Petra, I know you're listening, or you are viewing, or you are watching us wherever you may be. We are watching you as well. Ron, how are you doing?
Hey, TYB, I'm doing great today. Here on the west coast of Canada is absolutely gorgeous. Not a cloud in the sky. Beautiful sunny day. After the show, I think I'm going to go for a bike ride with my wife, Lisa, just because it is so gorgeous here. So I have no complaints whatsoever. Nobody would listen anyways. So what's the point of me complaining? So, and how are you doing, TYB?
Well, it's been that kind of a week. You know, we just can rest as artists, as producers, as what have you. We always have to do what is best for the industry that we are in. You know, we have been saying the industry is a jungle, but hey, we have so many gems in there. That's why we have Jeff Berlin here with us this morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you may be. You may be on Mars, Jupiter, on the moon. You are listening to us and you are viewing us. And then, without much ado, Ron, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt to introduce Jeff. You know, Petra is not.
Hey, Jeff. It's nice to see you here today. I'm glad you're able to join us. And I know you said earlier off the air that you're in Nashville right now, Nashville, Tennessee. So it's great to know that we're talking to somebody from another place so far away we are, but yet we can still communicate, which is great. So, Jeff, maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that TYB did an intro for you. Tell us who Jeff Berlin is.
Oh, with pleasure. I really appreciate the chance to chat with you guys, with TYB, with Ron. I want to thank you, fellows. It's the guy that I am, or the person that I am. I've been given credit as sort of one of the pioneers of bass. In the early days, around the 1970s, the big three, they called it, was Jaco Pastorius, Stanley Clarke, and me. And that was just because in this little window of sort of virtuoso bass players was not a thing. So because of the fact that, well, Jaco was the leader of us all anyway, but that my technical ability got me a reputation. And so I pursued that and did a lot of records, did a lot of tours based on my knowledge of harmony and my technical bass playing. What happened eventually was that I was raised in a very dysfunctional family. And the legacy of that was that I was never happy, and noticed that all of my bass playing was contingent on asking people to love me. Love me, look how fast I can play. It's just a mere symptom, but I went to therapy for a long time. And the reason I share this intimate fact of my life is because therapy liberated me. And I know that people have difficulties. I had great difficulties, and it liberated me to where I found freedom in myself, to where I could play at a higher level with less emphasis on the so-called things that attracted people to me. The speed. Today, everybody plays faster than I do. But I made a deep concentration into the harmony of music, which is not a common thing in bass. And so my records, including my new one, by the way, this is a coincidence because I have a new record coming out in a little bit.
Yeah, I know. I saw you were going to record, in the process of recording. Go ahead, continue.
Yes, it's based on the harmony that I shed and practice out of love of music. The inspiration came from me. My desire to play better comes from me. I'm 72 years old and I'm getting better. I literally am getting better because I work on music that is out of my reach. I know how to do it slowly. I'm an anti-metronome guy. People that know me know this. And because I practice slowly, I learn the music better. I'm a bit of a critic of top name bass teachers who I feel have misguided, not through bad intentions, no evil intentions here, but have misguided a generation of bass players. So I go online and suggest that people get to what's real in bass education, love the bass players that teach them for their playing because their playing is brilliant, but not to necessarily see that what they're being taught is going to help them to play better. So I'm a bit controversial because I try to be outspoken in a time, and you guys may be aware of this, outspokenness or clarity of thought is not appreciated online. Since the American elections, people have gone quite ballistic over any deviation from permitted internet, interaction. And my concepts are considered rude, hard, abrasive. They're not. They're as simple as smoking causes cancer. It's not abrasive. It's not hard. It's not meant to insult. It's a statement of reality. And a funny one, since not all smokers get cancer anyway. But so I'm perceived as a difficult guy when I'm hoping in the time you get to know me that I am just the guy you see, but I have no fear of sharing thoughts that I think will help people, even if some people are angry with the way that I share them. So there I am in a nutshell.
If we were to, I don't like putting labels to people. I can't stand when people put labels to me. It really bothers me, and I'm sure you feel the same. I'm not going to speak on your behalf. What genre would you say you play? Most of the time I'm reading and seeing it's mostly fusion. What would you say so we get this straight right off the bat?
It was fusion, but I don't like fusion anymore for personal reasons. The personal reasons is that by the involvement in music, I've evolved past it, past liking it. You follow? The journey of a musician, I assume, is to evolve. So while some stay in their area of love, my area of love of music has been doing this for the last 30 years. So the music that I loved back then, I noticed I didn't love it as much. So I'm not a fusion bass player. I would say more or less I'm a jazz bass player with harmonic and funky and rock flavors. As an artist, as a guy who just does what I do, my whole thing is entirely self-centered, which I think all musicians should do. I mean, the idea of playing for the audience. Have you guys heard about that? Where you play for the audience, you make the music that people would like. I've never been like that. And I'm not sure it's an honest way to do it because I notice that if I go inward and do it for me, that some are going to, I know there's an audience there. I know people might buy a record or I know people might come to a gig, but I play for me. I write for me. My whole musical pursuit is for me, but I invite people to come and share the experience. I'm not an island. I'm not away from, I need people to be a part of this experience. But so I'm going a long way around the barn here, aren't I? I'm not a fusion guy anymore, but I'm deeply into music for my sake, for my art, for my uplifting and joy. And right now it's sort of into improv. I've been practicing deeply improvisation.
TYB, I'll pass it over to you. This guy, by the way, TYB is he's won a Juno. He's a great artist. So yeah, absolutely. So give a 2 thumbs up to TYB here. Go ahead, TYB.
Jeff, it's great to welcome you to this program. And my first question to you is, as I always ask our guests, is how did it all get started?
Well, I'm a Jewish kid from a half immigrant Jewish family, and in a Jewish family, when their children show an aptitude for music, we go right to violin or piano. So I do have an aptitude for music, and I exhibited it as a child. I had sort of nearly instant recall. I could sing music, and my mother and father were, oh, what a fantastic musician my son is. You can't believe it. So I was given violin lessons, and I'm grateful for those lessons because it set the path for the rest of my life and made me understand what it takes to be a good player, even taking it on music, taking on music, but in the bass way, that bass players could learn this way. So it was really my years in violin. I was an orchestra player, small orchestras, not the New York Phil. Although I did have a classmate who became a violist for Leonard Bernstein. Several of my musician friends became quite well known in the classical field, and I had that background. So when I heard the Beatles, it influenced me to switch, because I really didn't want to play classical music anymore, and I got an electric bass because I thought it was easy. Because the violin is tuned G, D, A, E in fifths, low to high. A bass is tuned G, D, A, E in fourths, high to low. So I thought if I could play Mendelssohn, what's a bass guitar going to challenge me with? I mean, that was a child's logic, And so I got a bass, and I became deeply involved in learning music on it. That I would say is a little rare for the electric bass to learn. And that promoted me. I got into jazz. I became a New York studio bass player. I used to go down to the Union, and Will Lee was over here getting his checks, and Anthony Jackson was over here getting his checks, and I was getting my checks. And I was playing with the best players possibly on planet Earth when I was 20. What old was I? 23, 24. I was smack in the middle of the New York scene. You want to hear an interesting truth, an interesting historical?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
At the time, right in the period where I was in, I think it was Boston and New York, because I went to Berkeley back in 1972. My classmates were John Schofield, Abe Laboriel, Steve Smith on drums, Vinnie Colaiuta, Mike Stern. There was a whole clique of guys in the Boston area, Bill Frisell. And at the exact same period in Miami was Jaco Pastorius, Pat Metheny, Danny Gottlieb. Wow. Who's the pianist? He had a hit song. So right at the same peculiar, odd period in time, there were two centers of vital and fervent and passionate and dedicated music and music players. And they happened at the same historical time in two locations in the United States. One in New York, where I was with the Brecker brothers and those guys. And then these guys were down in Miami until Jaco and Pat got famous. So it's a fascinating historical regard, I guess. And I was in the middle of mine, and Jaco was in the middle of his. So, isn't that interesting?
Yeah. It's interesting. There's so many well-known musicians of today. Well, certainly by growing up, they were all in the same place. Yeah.
Somehow we gravitated to where the music was. And we gravitated to each other. And it was, I believe in spiritual things. I believe that life allows for certain things. And I didn't before therapy, but I do now. It's true. And so I think that I was drawn to this fervent area. Gary Burton was there. Michael Gibbs was there. Oh my goodness, you can't believe the amount of music that was going on around me. And then down in Miami with these masterful kids. We were all kids. So anyway.
I've been growing up with Pat Metheny. Yeah, man. Ooh.
That's right. Ooh. Well, my follow-up question would be, you gained international prominence after a session with Patrick Moraz, Dave Liebman, Patty Austin. Tell us a little bit about that.
I was a studio musician in New York. And again, I was one of the first people to play non-rhythmic, predictable, I might call it, the simple element of bass. I added things. Liebman is a jazz master. He wanted something like that. I could read anything, so I did Patti LaBelle's, not Patti, who did you say? Patty Moraz.
I mean, Patty Austin. Patty Austin.
Patty Austin, Patrick Moraz. I played with the guys from Yes. It was because I quickly learned music. It came easy to me. And the music wasn't, let's say, of a degree where I couldn't solve it quickly. So that producers want to get you in and out as fast as they can. And I gave them that service. So I was playing with everybody somewhere along the way, learning as I went. And I'm grateful for that, for those years. So I got to do those records. A lot of CTI, they offered me a record deal. I turned it down. I wasn't ready. Then I got with Bill Bruford, and that opened up everything for me. And I played with Alan Holdsworth, and I was asked to join Van Halen, and a whole lot of and I couldn't do it because Van Halen was a conglomerate whereby attitude had to fit the music. So their thing was a far more entertaining and boisterous, forward celebration of music and running and jumping and swinging from the rope like Eddie did. And that wasn't me. So while I was asked to join the band, I knew I wouldn't be good for the band. Musically, I would have, but that's not enough. In this situation, you had to also be a part of the spirit of the band, and it wasn't for me. So, but I had some pretty good inroads. I jammed with them. Yeah, with these.
Yeah, you said something that is very interesting. You said you went after playing. Was it before associating yourself with Patty Austin and all the other guys that you said that you were not ready? What do you mean you were not ready? Because you were good at the time. If I'm sitting here and then with the names that I mean the sort of people that you've performed with, why were you not ready? Because you had tasted that success. I would say success at that particular point in time. Not a lot of people would have gotten the chance to play with the greats, right? But you were in there. Why were you not ready?
I wasn't ready to do a solo record because I didn't have a vision. I didn't establish a vision of music that was from me. See, as much as I could do this, I didn't have a concept. Jaco Pastorius's greatest legacy is that from the very first time that he played, his DNA, it's literally a thing in his body, helped him to provide a style and a view of music that was entirely his own. So while I could play, I couldn't play my thing in the way that I wanted to. It took me years and years and years. I was very dedicated to learning and learning and learning. In fact, I gave up New York to study with Charlie Benakis in the 1980. I left New York. I left being one of the top studio bass players in the city at that time, when there were these type of recording situations. And I went to Boston and lived there for about a year or two and did nothing but study with Charlie Benakis. It was a fire. I mean, you know how people say, oh, it's burning in me. I had to know more than I knew. And I went to him, who was the greatest music teacher, I think, in contemporary music to this day. I don't think anyone has quite provided the kind of brilliant lesson plans and ideas and concepts in music that he did. And I studied with him, and I did 1 week, I had to do a 14-page transcription of Sonny Rollins and Sonny Stitt. Next week, I had to do, I think it was a 9-page of Keith Jarrett. I mean, they were just insane transcriptions. I did 12 keys of an exercise of his. Finally, I went to him and I said, man, you're wearing me out. Why are you giving this? He said to me, and he was a funny guy. I loved him. He goes, hey, man, I'm giving it to you because you can handle it, man. You know, I thought, okay. And so I climbed into the learning situation deeply and didn't come up until I finally felt it was time. And I'm grateful to Charlie for that. He showed me things I never would have learned without him. Never.
So in essence, your patience, paid off.
Say again. Say again.
Yeah. Your patience paid off.
Oh, yeah. And being young, you think you wouldn't have it. But I would sit there with the tape machine And let's say I'd be doing a sax solo, and the solo would be, you know, something. I got good enough where I can go, B flat, G. I don't have perfect pitch. That actually might be, what is that? F, D. Okay, maybe. Then I had rewound it, and it would go, ba-da-da-da.
I've done this too.
Lots. For hours, because
Yeah.
I wanted to learn. It's really not a complicated thing in my particular. I had to know. I couldn't rely on this. I knew I was a liar, a fake. I knew it. I knew it.
Well, we are in conversation with the maestro himself, an exclusive interview with Jeff Burden here on Love the Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We are in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Ron?
Hey, Jeff, do you think you're still that passionate about learning?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There isn't a day that I don't do something on the bass. I had a hand surgery.
Mm-hmm.
I had two bones that from arthritis, not from playing, it grew together and were causing me pain. So they cut the bone and they did their little surgery on me. And I don't know if you can see this, but I have a bit of an indentation here.
Yeah.
This is an atrophied muscle that I never got back. And it affects my playing to where I don't have the technique I used to. So this surgery, I think, was 2022, and I was off for 8 months. And then when I got back into practicing and playing again, I made a commitment that I was going to, for 2023, practice every single day. And I didn't keep a record, but I may have done 350, 355 days that year, sometimes 2-3 hours a day, 3-4 hours. And at the end of the year, 1 lousy year, I was a way better bass player in regards to music. So I said, oh, well, I'm not going to play super fast. So you make lemonade out of lemons. And I practiced 2024 by doing all kinds of work. I mean, these are some of the transcriptions that I wrote out. Hold on, I'm throwing stuff all over the place. Can you see these things?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Black and white notes.
A lot of notes, but there's gold in them thar hills. I noticed that I would write these things out and it would take me days. Then it would be done. And then I would have 3 months of more of practice. And I would be practicing things, let's say that this is a Keith Jarrett solo. And I would never be able to play a Keith Jarrett ideas. So what I discovered is if I aim for the sky, I'll hit the moon. I won't hit the stars. So if I aim up this way, maybe I'll hit this way. And if I hadn't done that work, I would have stayed here. And the logic seemed irrefutable to me. And it was just my passion for it. And I learned a lot, even as an old fart, you know. I learned. I'm 72 years old. I'm still practicing. So these things imbued me with ideas that were new. And that, wow, Keith did, but I can hear it in my head. It's hard to sing. And I never would have had this idea. It never would have occurred to me. So I robbed. I went to the greatest soloists and the greatest players in music that I knew of and learned from them. And I can't quote them on a gig because their music is not easy, but it gave me so many openings, so many doors that now I'm playing things I never played before, not ever. So I'm grateful.
But do you think that's changed much? I mean, you sound like me. I mean, because I'm the same way. I'm like going to be 61, well, in a couple of days. So I'm asking because that's the way I've been too. I mean, I started playing when I was 14 years old. Played piano since I was about 8. So do you think this passion has been lost in what we're seeing today in say the youth of today?
Well, I think they're misguided. People don't like when I say that, but I think some of the best known bass teachers have not been helpful to getting bass players to play better. So the answer to you is that interestingly, today has more virtuosos than it's ever had before.
We see them all the time online.
Sure, they're all there, and they outplay me 100 notes to one. I mean, in that remarkable technical thing.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I'm saying is, while there are more guys, girls and guys, that have improved in music, there is a kind of a principle where groove and feel and whatever works for you are the terms that guide people to bass playing. And what has happened for most bass players, should they wish to play better, is that most, excuse me, most haven't, and most never will. And by saying this, it's a very upsetting thing to people, but I'm trying to give people truth and let them take it and use it. So the truth is that it is barely possible. It might be easier to say it isn't possible to play better without putting your hands on a bass or an instrument for musical purposes. I cannot, by no means of mental acuity, become a better basketball player by visualizing it. I can't join the hockey teams, the ice hockey teams famous in Canada, because I have a sense that whatever works for me in hockey ought to get me to join a Canadian ice hockey team, because ice hockey is a specifically taught sport. Then you get the virtuosos who used or became what they became because they were liberated by being taught factually. Bass players today are good people. They're caring and they want to know the truth. But when I tell them the truth, it pisses them off because it literally stops them from even having hope of playing without putting in the time in order to do it. So I'm doing a service because I have nothing to say about art. You know what I mean? If one does this thing because it pleases them, I have no comment about it. I have no comment about modern music. It isn't my place. But if bass players want to play better, it's really pretty darn simple. You're going to have to get a teacher who knows music and teach it to you. And I'll use English or Ghanan language that when, sorry, I'm thinking this thought out. When TYB and when you and I were kids, we were taught how to read and write the same way.
That's right.
TYB was taught via Ghanan,
Yeah.
grammar. And yet out of his education and Ron, yours and mine, we became, what came out of it were poets, were pharmacists, were lawyers, were authors, were article news people. The goals were arrived at because the facts were first learned. So I can go on about this. I got to cut this short. But bass players are not being taught well. You can't get better by groove. You can't get better by the principles of performance, because performance is always a result. You get better by learning the facts of the music, or you ignore that and get completely into self-taught, like Geddy Lee did it. He is a famous Canadian bass.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, for Rush, of course.
Geddy's an old buddy of mine. I know him well, and we have been in touch since around the Bruford years. That's the late 70s, early 80s. So we know each other most of our lives. He's a self-taught bassist. He lived it, and he used his intuition and his thing, and he gained his skills. There's only two ways to learn how to play. There aren't 20. There's two. You learn music, written music, as every orchestra musician does, right? Or you follow the Geddy Lee tactic and become self-taught. There isn't a third option that I can think of, and I've been asking this question for years. So when I'm open to hearing a third option, combining the two is what I did. I guess that's a third option. So in that thinking, when bass players I'm online a lot and trying to help people, they go, well, this worked for me. Well, you're a self-taught guy, but you shouldn't be taught it. You know, that's the nature of the failure of top teaching. Groove is not an important tactic to teach, because groove is a result. Everybody has to play in time, whatever they're playing. No one told Geddy Lee to groove and rush. It never happened. It's a logical result. So the teaching of the obvious is a letdown in regards to having people advance. And so I say this, and I'm considered a bad guy. There's a Victor Wooten lesson where he subscribed that there are no wrong notes.
Yes, I saw that.
Of course there are wrong notes. There are wrong notes, there are wrong words, there are wrong math conclusions, there are wrong formulas, there are wrong notes. And a lot of guys spend a lot of years learning what the right ones are. So the lesson and other lessons similar to it have distracted students who love Victor as a teacher from knowing the truth about learning. Only learning. Nothing else, no art, no vision, nothing else, simply the product of learning. So I went online and said this. I said the same thing about Steve Bailey at
Yes,
Berkeley.
I saw this.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
And it causes disruption because, you know, you're not supposed to say names, but the leaders, I get it, but I'm not commenting about people personally. If I comment about, what is it, RJ Reynolds Tobacco Company, and their dangerous product, I never mentioned RJ Reynolds to refer to him in any personal way. I don't refer to people because I disagree with their influence and methods that affect younger people that don't know about music what I know. And why do I know it? I looked into it. That's it. So the Berkeley or Bailey criticisms, and the reason I criticized both Victor and Steve was simply because in the world, they're the leaders and the most influential people and have a much higher responsibility to teach, I would say, the right kind of lessons, which are, there are wrong notes, practice these notes, or that Mr. Bailey is a big proponent of teaching hand exercises.
Yes,
when there's nothing wrong with your hands. There's nothing wrong with the hands. So to teach years of this and not tell someone to learn an inversionary exercise, it is a distraction from the truth of learning that all symphony musicians and musicians around the world know. So there is my delicate position. I'm sharing that the product, only the product, not the men, not their wives, not their kids, not their religion, I have nothing to say about this, but you can't convince people that you didn't call somebody a dumb son of a you-know-what by saying that their teaching method is flawed. People are a little nervous. Mm-hmm. But I'm here just to put this out at any cost to me. I have no problem standing for what I think is going to help people. And I think it needs a voice. So that's my monologue.
I'm going to ask you one real quick question, Jeff. You're going to laugh at this. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Oh, okay. Just okay, good.
Coffee. I like coffee.
I like your perspective, and you know it's nice talking to you like this because you get to see a person that seems quite likable, as opposed to what I hear so many people. I hear these banters on Facebook or wherever it may be, and it's just like, okay, you guys are all like you're getting into a fight here. But it's good to talk to you in person and see that you care.
People think I have Satan's entire book collection hanging. I mean, you know, because I speak straight. It works people up. I'm sorry, but
I'm not worked up at all. I think it's great. TYB, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I just got a text from upstate New York from Shireen, and they want to know whether you played with Zappa.
I did, and I was fired.
Tell us about it.
This is pre-therapy, Jeff. And when I went in to play with Frank, he took me into the band. And then I asked for more money, and he fired me. He gave me, I took it home, but I don't know where they are anymore. I had like those transcriptions, I had 4 pages of Zappa music that he gave me to learn in a week. I don't quite know what he was thinking, because it is just can't really be done. You need weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. Anyway, it's in treble clef. I read treble clef. And we're rehearsing, and he goes, "What are you playing?" I said, "This is the part you gave me." And he goes, "Oh, I gave you the guitar part by mistake." And I'm a good enough reader, so I worked it out. Like, some of the things went off the bass, so I did them down an octave.
Mm-hmm.
And it was quite exciting that I could play that music, but ultimately it wasn't for me. That's why I'm not quite into fusion at this particular time. That 7, 8, 11 over, and groupings of 3 over 4, and da 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 ba 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 ba. It's just not for me anymore. I like 4/4.
And syncopation too, I see.
Well, in the voice. I mean, I know I feel rhythm, but I like 4/4.
As I tell you, most of the charts I write out in notation are usually in 4/4.
Yeah, well, that's sort of true, and that sort of bodes towards my metronome criticisms. Everybody plays bass in 4/4, but for some reason can't seem to muster the ability to play a bass line in 4/4 in time without a click. It just makes no sense to me.
Yeah, we were talking about that last week on the show, and none of us about metronomes and stuff, and we were just, all of us were just feeling the same way. It's like, I can't imagine sitting in front of this thing that goes tick, 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 tick. That to me would just drive me bananas. I don't think I've used a metronome in years.
And I'll bet you play in time in the bands you play in.
I don't have any problems with timing. To me, it's I don't know. I don't know about you, but when I get on stage, it's the feel of things. I get this sort of, one of the things that my pet peeve in all this is the drummers that can't play in time, and those kind of make me go batty. But it just makes me go batty, because I'm kind of going, come on, don't you get this? Like, if you're not playing in time, this doesn't feel good. I don't know about you, but I can just tell it doesn't feel right.
Well, that's an interesting comment, and it's one I've answered sometimes online, is that you almost won't meet a drummer that didn't practice with a metronome. And yet, the big complaint from bass players is that metronome's time feels weird. And it's interesting that nobody has put 2 and 2 together about that. And funnily, the same thing has happened with drummers saying, I have to play so steady because my bass player is all over the place. That's not a rare comment. And bass players are strict metronome users for the most part. So something isn't lining up here. And I know what it is. I know what it is. It's that people are performing before they know how to play. I took a couple of Spanish classes. Let me translate down at the United Nations. Wait a minute. You got more to do, Jeff. Let me go and do a Latin soap opera TV. I learned Yo voy a la playa, tú vas a la playa. Bass players and drummers are looking to perform before they know how to play. And if they look at every drummer that they admire, some use clicks, some didn't. Look at every bass player they admire. Practically none use clicks. A couple might have. But if you look at their playing and their performance ability, they came to the performance ability after they learned how to play, or played in small bands, or paid attention to their time, paying attention at first. And then who pays attention to the use of language that we use? You know what I mean? Even TYB, you're what I refer to as a Ghanadian.
Yeah, that's right. I like that. Yeah.
You've been in Canada a long time. You don't have any problem with French, I'm guessing, or English. I mean, because you've been there, you've been in it. So, but drummers and bass players are trying to put the horse before the horse before the cart before the horse. Trying to perform and prepare for perform with this ridiculous device as if this is what performance is about. I have a very great interest to give people the straight poop and help them to learn better. But they have to open to it. If they don't, nothing's going to change out there.
Yeah.
And there are people like me too. I'm not alone in this.
TYB?
I've got this interesting question.
Please, sir.
We had back in the day, the groups, kids, what have you, and today it's become an individualized kind of era that we are in. How do you compare both? I mean, how do you see that?
Are you referring to people staying at home, let's say, and recording?
That's right.
It's an evolution. That's all that it is. It evolved to this. It became a thing. I'm not sure how, but it reflects having no responsibility, which is just has to be clear, in learning how to play better, because you're just sitting home doing it on your own. So in that area, that paradigm, that area of thinking, I mean, there's nothing to fix. There's nothing to improve, because no one is going to be affecting negatively and regretfully, not affecting positively, the playing of other people. It's just what it is. When I was a kid, and up until today, we play. I'll see you at the gig. I'm on tour in Europe, I just played in South America. We did some rehearsing. You play with people, but if the thing evolved, which can't be focused on by anybody, the most I can tell people that record at home is enjoy yourselves, but it ain't going to go any further. If you want it to go further, there's things you need to do. It's quite simple, I feel.
Because from where I sit, I think back in the day with the groups, having to go to rehearsals, you met different people, different characters, different, it sort of brought something to the artists or to the musicians or to the band. If you were traveling, you learned a lot, as opposed to, hey, I wrote this one by myself. You know what? I'm going to have a playback. If you don't want to play, that's it. Those kind of stuff. I mean, we miss something, no matter what anybody would tell me personally, sitting here as TYB. I feel we've lost that kind of human touch among artists. What's your take on that?
I think you're right. And as I said, I think it's just the way that people want it. Things have evolved. It's kind of sets the stage that there's no reason really to listen to a word that I say about music. There's no reason to go to music school. None. There's no reason to go to a bass teacher. None. There's no reason. If people are set in their thing, do it. But if people have an interest in more, as you said, to relate to people and expand in that way, there's things to do. There's practice to be done, certain listening to be done. And that might explain why a lot of people respectfully don't like my views, because they have to work for them. Can I tell you a funny story?
Go ahead, please.
I played with Ray. Well, it's an interesting story. I played in the 70s with a guy named Ray Barretto. Ray Barretto was the salsa king in New York and was internationally regarded as one of the greatest salsa musicians around. So I'm playing in his band, playing all of this stuff. And he liked it. But the band members were 3 or 4 horn players and I think some percussionists who hated my guts. And said to me, looked at me, man, we're going to kick your ass, man. Like that. And they meant it. And I got real scared. But I didn't quit. I went out after they threatened me, because some guys take music as sacred, They do. Don't F with the music. So I went out and got a couple of records. I was recommended a bassist, Sal Cuevas, who was the greatest tumbao bass player around. And I listened to his records and I listened to other guys. And I did it for hours a day and practiced it. And about a weekish later, because may have mentioned I'm a fast study, I come in and and I looked up and these guys are going like that. And they looked at me like this. And afterwards, the guy who threatened to kick my nuts in, he looked at me. He said, man, you are a good motherfucker. I'm digging this. And I'll never forget it. I see it in my mind. And I had to work hard in order to earn my spot with musicians who were legitimate in their style and didn't want no fucking white piece of bread so-and-so to mess with their art form. And they were right, and I heeded the call. It was a great lesson for me. Could have been a painful.
It meant they had something set up, so they didn't want anybody to come and contaminate it, so to speak. So
I think you're right. When you play, it's consider a tour. You're on the road for hours. We certainly are when we tour with my band. Hours. Check in a hotel. You don't quite get a dinner. Okay. It's all part of the fun. I have no problem with it. Neither did these guys. Running around, do a quick sound check, blah, blah, blah. And then you get 90 minutes on stage. That's holy time.
Yeah.
That's holy time. For the effort put in to get 90 minutes to interact with your fellow musicians, you had better be on your toes. You better be on the top of your form. You had better be ready. And that's the seriousness and also the joy of it. Because when you are ready and you're playing, man, it's a gas. Yeah. We go days and days and go, whoa, wasn't that great? It's a physical addiction. It's an honest, at the end of a gig, can't sleep sometimes thinking how great it was. Sometimes I can't sleep thinking how terrible it was. And it's or terrible to us. We usually don't meet people that hear it that way, but I do. I know when it wasn't right. And so there you go. I mean, playing is holy ground. Playing is sacred. It's a holy, holy place. That's how I feel.
Folks, we are in conversation with the amazing Jeff Berlin, one of the top. If you talk about top, yes, bass players in the whole world. On Music Talk Radio, your number one African Caribbean online radio. This is Highway 6 to Africa. Ron, take it away.
Hey Jeff, when you get on in the studio with some heavy hitters, how do you find your space sometimes in there?
My space?
Yeah, like how do you fit in? How do you feel? Is it challenging, or do you have to, like, if the people you've never played with them before,
right?
And you kind of go, okay, how are we all gonna fit together like a glove? Because that's what really has to happen in the studio.
Correct. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I'm just curious how you go about doing that.
Well, the studio is a particular place where the requirements of music have to be specified. It's rare that you go in, it happens, but it's rare that you go in for free jazz or having a freedom to express beyond the parameters of the style you've been hired to do. So I did a lot of jingles in those days, buy my Pepsi Cola, because it's the best for you, and then we go home. They called them cues. And it wasn't hard to know that the mandatory way to play that, it was be ba-boom, boom, bum, 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 bum. So it's synonymous, which fit with my prior pre-therapy ego that everything I played, you had to love. And so I could go in the studio and sit there, but Steve Gadd was over here. The Brecker brothers were over there. Lou Soloff was over here. The guys from Stuff, they were a famous New York R&B group. I mean, I was the only sort of newbie, but I could play somewhat, and it was easy. My space was simple. I will tell you a funny story, another one. There was a pantyhose commercial I did. And there was a girl, they had a screen because they had to play to a click and play to the thing. And a woman walked, clip, bim, bim, bim. She was walking. You saw her legs. I had to begin the thing with 4 bars or 2 bars of bum, 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 bum.
1 5 1
1 5 1 5, and I couldn't do it. And I went, "What's going on here?" Bum, dum, boom, bum, bum. And I'm looking around, and the guys are just sort of watching me, and I'm going. Finally, and I did it, and everything worked out fine. But I tilted in a recording studio playing 1 5 1 5.
Yeah.
You want to hear I played a 2-bar cue, 2 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That was the gig. And I made $14,000 on that gig.
Whoa.
Back in 1970s.
Whoa.
There was a store called Kmart because you get royalties. That's what.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So they didn't write you a check right there for 14 grand.
No, not for that.
Okay.
It was overtime. And
Let's get that straight.
very straight. I did not get paid 14 for playing those 2 bars. I played it for them reviewing the music on TV and nationally. The product was Kmart.
Oh.
And Kmart is a store in America. Maybe you have them in Canada. I don't know. And the commercial went, Kmart is your shopping place. Bop. And what did I play? Bum, bum. Let me get in key. Bum, bum, ba, bum, bum, bop. And I went home. And we all went home. That was the cue for that particular day. And over the next 6 months, those checks kept coming in and in and in and in. And if I didn't read music, I wouldn't be there.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm the same way. In terms, I love reading music. Can I ask, was it done in one take?
Yeah.
Who cares? I mean, it's not that.
No, it's a good question. Yeah, sometimes the producer would say, okay, do it again. And this time trumpet, let's say, back a little away from the mic or some such a fine, because they're in the control room.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, they may come in and say, do it again. But playing wise, it was 2 whole notes, an eighth note, a quarter note, an eighth note with a quarter rest and a quarter note. Bum, bum, ba, ba, bum, ba. Quarter, with a staccato.
Accent, maybe. If you could play with anybody today, who would it be that you haven't had the experience of playing with?
Well, I wish I played with Ginger Baker. I don't think we would have lasted because I heard he was a curmudgeonly fellow. I'm actually quite easy and happy on the road, but I would deeply love to have played with Ginger Baker during his heyday. Today, I have a wish that has never come to fruition, and I've talked to producers, because I know a lot of these guys over the years, about using me on a pop record to play the 2 or 4 bar melodic solo. You know how in some song or something have a bass solo in there? I have a great tone. I have something special that I have never used on a record yet. Well, one time I did on mine, but I'm wrong about that. But it's a unique tone. And I would go to a producer, hey, Jeff, I love you, thank you. How about using me on the next Beyonce record and put me in that little space? And I got, for 20, 30 years, what I call the look. It was so common, I would get the look. And the look was, when I asked to do that, maybe they consider me for the solo instead of a guitar or somebody, I get.
Yeah. Is that are you crazy?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they would be very polite because I guess of my rep, and they would sort of, oh, well, great idea, Jeff.
We'll call you, thanks.
We'll call you. And I still haven't met a forward-thinking producer who might take me up on that. On the poppiest of the pop records that might break the either tradition or precedence of never using a bass in that spot. I mean, people talk about the intro to Barney Miller or certain, but there aren't really any bass solos.
No, there's not. I think of the one Simon. What was it? In Paul Simon's album, for "You Can Call Me Al." There's that solo in there, right?
Thumb solo, right?
Yeah, I think so. Actually, you know what I heard is it's actually another fellow told me this. He said it's actually a synth that they put forward, and they wanted to put something. They got to as far as the forward, and they said, well, let's just reverse it. So they reversed it. So it's exactly the opposite reverse. And I thought, no wonder I can't figure this thing out. This is because it was forward, and then all the notes went exactly the opposite right back up again. It's weird. I thought, okay, that makes sense.
That's the cleverness of a great producer, to imagine pretty hip little things. I admire producers. I'm actually a big fan of them, even if they even if they don't want to use me in a 4-bar bass solo. Honestly, I do. That I'm not terribly sure that the music of today pleases me personally, but the production of it is second to none. It's simply brilliant. So these guys are amazing.
Yeah. TYB,
But,
go ahead.
but Jeff, I would say that that brings me to my next question, and it falls into it.
Please.
Now, AI also is playing a great deal in that with that because, I mean, creativity should be should have a human base in terms of the fact that me personally, like AI is changing a lot of things. What's your take on it? Because sometimes it's like Yeah, we speak about AI, we discuss about AI on this show almost every week. It's my passion as it may relate to the industry that we are in. What's your take on AI as it may relate to
Well,
the industry in general?
like recording at home, it's an evolution. It became a thing.
Mhm.
So the best, I say, solution or point of thought is to not worry or sweat or think or concern oneself about what is. I don't think there's any way to fix it or deal with it other than
Mm-hmm.
going into yourself and doing your best job. It's the only way around it. AI is here. AI is established. I mean, we're in 2025, and in 2050, certain things that we can't imagine now are going to be reality.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I mean, that's just evolution, and evolution comes with the good and the bad. So honestly, I don't sweat or think about AI in the slightest. Know why also? Because I think people will come and see a live band and players if they're known to play. The entertainment in part is to be a part of that group. That, like I said earlier, I write for me. I investigate music for me, but I know people are there and I want them to enjoy. So people will come out and they still have. I can't. There was one artist and I can't remember his name. I saw him at some show and it was entirely electronic music, entirely. And I never saw him again or her again. And I don't know where she went. I just know that if you compare this artist with, let's say, a live playing group, I just don't think that an audience would allow themselves to participate in an audience experience of listening to somebody who programmed music over somebody that can play.
Mhm.
I trust people more than that, you know.
I've said many times, and I even responded to somebody on YouTube about AI because he was totally against it. He was looking at it and going, "He's a really good producer." It's a Rick Beato, and Rick was making a comment about it, and he was
Oh, I know.
going through. Yeah, right. And so he's going through some different things, some different places where AI is going. I keep saying, I am so glad I play an instrument because there will never be an end to people wanting to see others on stage and see it live in front of them,
Right.
as opposed to something that comes out of speakers that we don't even have a clue where it comes from. So I'm just, to me, I'm an advocate for this, and I say it time and time again to people. Do you play an instrument? Because if you don't, maybe you should think about it. Or if you're a singer, that's great too. You're a singer, great. You've got more talent than I do. However, playing an instrument, there's just nothing like it.
There's nothing like it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
One has to be. There's a popular principle in bass is sort of the solicitation of the bass the solicitation of the bass instrument, inviting people to become bass players. You know, join the community. And personally, I don't agree, and I never liked that. I never saw an art community soliciting people to come and be painters. I never saw ballet soliciting people. I just don't see the solicitation and the invitation in order to expand the instrument's visibility as a reasonable thing to do. And the reason that I'm mentioning it is because a lot of the people that have been invited to play and have accepted the call can't play and prefer not to. It's almost a bit of a misuse of their time and maybe their ability by possibly giving them a little bit of a thought that something is going to come of this that will either give them joy or help them to learn music, but it doesn't come to the fore. So learning takes time. It's hard. And don't let anybody be confused. Go back to Getty and ask all the years that he banged on a bass in his basement, plucked or roomed with these two other guys in a one hotel room, and practicing in the hotel room. This never came easy. And so the reason I say that is because I agree. I'm going again the long way around. My mind, and I never took drugs. Maybe I should start. I don't know. So anybody got drugs? So yeah, I don't believe in the solicitation of bass. I don't believe in the invitation of that. I do believe in children programs and introducing them to music, but not adults. If you want to play, you'll knock over a wall to get to the store and get a guitar, and you'll do everything you can to play it. So I agree with you, Ron. It's just a thing you do if this is what you want to do. And if you do it and you're really dedicated to it, people are going to know, and they're going to come out and hear you play. Mm-hmm. I'm just sure of it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I love teaching kids in concert band. Yeah. It was great. I mean, it was nice to see the kids learning these instruments that we don't see as much today, unfortunately.
No, I agree. It does take a dedication to it. I have another story that occurred to me, and I might be tooting my own horn a little bit, but when I lived in Clearwater, there was a place called Ruth Eckerd Hall. I don't know who she was, but they named this big theater complex after her. So I went in, I was invited in. There was a kid big band playing, and they were playing, and the guys teaching them and conducting, and they were out of tune, and they were squawking. And I watched this for 15 minutes, and then I walked up, uninvited, by the way, which is sometimes my way, and I whispered in the guy's ear, "Can I have a minute with these guys?" And he knew me, so he said, "Sure, go ahead." I said, "Okay, let's start with the trumpets." And I had the piano player play a B flat, and I said, "Now, guys, tune." So they did, and they were, they were every tune. Okay, you got to now play a unified note. Okay, I said, "Now the saxes, etc." Okay, bones. Done. Now let's play this. They played. I said, "Stop. Trumpets, pull back. Don't play." I almost equate it with who's that Cuban famous trumpet player? He was a fan of Dizzy Gillespie. Anyway, he escaped Cuba. Anyway, this guy has a playing where it's like, I call it bleating. And I'm not a fan of, I'm not a fan of the bleat trumpet. Anyway, these kids are all over. So I said, pull it back and just play ba. And they did. And then I did the same to the saxes and the trombones. And I said, now play a chord. And man, in 10, 15 minutes, these guys went wah. And the reason it worked, and the reason I may have known about it, is because I'm an ex-violinist. I used the principles that were taught in orchestra and the things we did wrong, where our high school orchestra teachers or if we did any performances, the conductors would instruct us in. And there are principles that are universal that work for everybody. That's why I sort of teach that there aren't many ways to learn. There's really only two. So, but that happened, and it's just a story I thought of that you can, if you're taught properly, you're going to earn dividends from it. All right, I went around again that bar, and I've been orbiting it for 45 minutes.
Yeah. Well, hey, I know what you mean, and it's an experience I had, and I love conducting, and I love seeing the kids develop and seeing artists develop. That's what I love, is seeing people develop. It's nice. As a teacher for 30 some years, it was nice to see those kinds of things happening. And when you see the lights go on, that to me is the joy right there. Oh, that's it.
When they get it, they'll never go back to the old. That's the brilliance of learning. You go, and that light goes off in any of us. Oh, that's what that is. How do you go back? You can't. You've evolved. It's the nature of learning is incremental. You don't practice today or this week and get better this week. In fact, you can practice this week and get worse. It's actually a fact. But musical improvement is like the Dow Jones. You go down, you go up, you go down, you go up. But if you look at 4 months, there's a curve upward. And the Dow, it always has been like that. You know how the Dow fell the other day with some of the Trump and things like this? The market went, meow. And there's people I know, well, I won't get into it, but we have these investments. And I said, sit it out. We got to sell. No, sit it out. Wait, it'll go back. And it has, and it will continue. The market never, historically, has not gone up. Never. So in the same element of thinking, in bass playing or practicing or any instrument, when you go, oh, that's what that is. Playing and learning properly, you can only and always will go up. I like that message from you.
You sound like my financial advisor referring to the stock market. He says, sit it out. Don't worry. Exactly.
Sit it out and wait.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, it's been wonderful. This is your radio station as well. Come back again. We'll call on you, and sometimes you can come and co-host with us, and we will have some discussions, because most times we have discussions of great relevance in this industry, and then we love this because there are a lot of people listening to us from so many countries, as I can see. So you know what, you've been a wealth, and then your experience that has brought up the best in so many people that you may know or you may not know. Right. So encouraging. We pray for your life. We pray for everything that you've done in the music industry. And you know what? It's been a pleasure. And how can people reach you?
Oh, gosh. I guess they can reach me at, how can they reach me? Well, they can reach me at Gill, Gille, at dogandponyindustries.com. Should I send it?
How did you come about that?
That's my manager.
Oh, all right. Say that again, please.
I'm thinking his name starts with a J. I see. Okay, well, how does that all fit in there?
Gill, Uille, at Dog and Pony Industries, IES, dogandponyindustries.com. If anyone wants to reach out, I'll get some messages. And I got to say, you guys have been so kind, and to have the opportunity to share thoughts and spend time with guys in a different forum other than a mere bass forum, which is really where I and my colleagues, we all sort of spend time in specifically, that forum. It's so great to share thoughts here. And if I'm happy to join you, and I love this hang, man. It was wonderful.
I like the idea of your focus on the education of music in general. I think that's what we're honored to have today, because that's where we're always geared around that area for sure here. So it has been a real pleasure, Jeff.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. TYB.
Yeah. Well, folks.
My favorite Canadian.
That's right. Thank you for that word. Yeah, folks. We'll see you in in the next week. Take care of yourselves and each other. And you know what? We live in a world full of peace, love. If you can extend yourself to help somebody out there, please do. Because you know what? We live on borrowed times. The next second, the next minute, the next hour is not promised to anybody. Take care of each other. And then we remember, we belong to one race, and that is the human race. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Ron. Bye-bye, TYB.